Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. As you can see, I'm popping back up again. My walking is a lot better, and fingers crossed, I'm hoping I've seen the end of it. It's still not great, but the antibiotics seem to have helped. So let's hope. So thank you all again for sticking with me, and sorry for last week. But today I've got another new product. Now it's not new as in for the company, but it's new for me. And as you know, I love anything that makes makeup portable. Anything that you can slip in your bag, I'm a sucker for it. Even though I actually don't go very far, I just love convenience products. And I'm going to review this today. So this is called the Makeup Forever Professional HD Skin Palette. Right, and I've wanted a foundation palette for so long, and my sister alerted me to this, and she's actually got one. So I'm going to show you. Now, this comes in, you can get this in two shades. One is for medium skin and one is for deeper tone. So I got the one for medium skin. And as you can see here, you've got a selection of colours, all in the HD foundation shades. And as you can see, I haven't used any of them. I'm going to use it now. So you've got your blush shades here. You've also got some colour correctors here. So you've got a yellow one. And you've got this sort of peachy pink shade, which is actually going to get rid of under eye circles, hopefully. Now, these are all quite fair, but this one's looking like it could be okay. But the whole idea of this is that you can mix them up. So, you know, even if you're a bit darker than that, but not as dark as that, you can mix colours. And then you've got this highlighter shade here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch you all the colours, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'm actually going to put on my base using nothing but these. So let's get going with the swatches, shall we? And by the way, before I do that, let's just talk about the packaging. How great is that for carrying in your bag? If you can put, like, if you can get your foundation, concealer, blush and contour and bronzer, because you've got kind of a cooler tone and you've got like a warm tone, you know, you potentially got everything you need in that palette. And I'm really intrigued now to look at the deeper one, especially if I start doing other people's makeup. But anyway, now we're definitely going to go to the swatches. Okay, so you should have now seen the swatches. Now, my first impression of the swatches is they are quite light. But as I said, I'm not too worried because you've got the darker shades that you can mix in. And so you can mix your own bespoke shade. The only thing I'm slightly disappointed about is that actually, although in the pan, it looks like you've got a bronzer and a contour shade, even the one that looks cooler in the pan still looks quite warm for a contour shade. So, but again, I'm not that worried because there is a good selection in the foundations of cool and warm tones. It's just that they're quite pale, but by mixing, let's hope we can get something. Now, I'm just going to take this darkest shade, which is still quite pale. See, that's still quite pale for me. But, do you know what? I'm going to try it first on its own, on this side of my face, because it's quite neutral and it may actually work. If not, then I will start mixing it with some of the darker shades. So let's do half of my face with this shade and see how we get on. Okay, I deliberately haven't done my eyes yet, but immediately I think this is really, really good coverage. This, the fact that I've done half, it's really showing up my gappy tooth, so just ignore that. But I really like the coverage and I love the glow of that foundation. I've never actually owned an HD foundation by Makeup Forever. I think I've only ever owned one eyeshadow pencil by Makeup Forever, but I'm loving that. And actually, I think with a bit of bronzer, I can just about get away with that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other side, and I'm then going to try the colour corrector under my eyes before applying something a little bit cooler to kind of highlight the areas. So I'll do the other side and I'll be right back. Okay, now what I love about this foundation as well is I would say it's going to be great if you've got really oily skin, because it melts quite quickly as you're applying it to the skin. But what I've done is swiped it on. It's given really good coverage. But then, because it's also a bit waxy, is you can pat it on areas where you need a little bit more coverage, like so. And I would probably want to set this with a bit of powder, even though I've got dry skin. But it will be absolutely great if you've got dry skin. Now, I'm looking a bit weird because I haven't put anything around my eyes, and it is a bit paler, but I'm going to get away with it because I'm going to use it as a bronzer as well. Now, what I'm going to do just with my fingers is I'm going to pick up some of this peachy colour corrector, and I'm just going to dot this under my eyes. And that works really well as a colour corrector, I think. And I'll try a little bit on my cheek peaks. Now that's going to mix in a bit with the foundation. Now, other side. Right, now I haven't done the top yet of my eyes. I'm looking like I've got smoky eye makeup on, aren't I? But what I want to do now is I want to take one of the sort of the cooler toned, lighter shades, because otherwise I'm just going to be using one shade. But I'm going to be taking that. I'm going to take this one because this looks quite cool toned. And I'm going to see if I can get away with putting this over and using it on the high points of my face. Now, if I put this on its own, it would definitely not work. It would be too fair, but I'm just going to use it as a kind of to highlight points of my face. So a little bit there and a little bit there. It's all going to come together in a minute. And just it's one of those bear with me videos, I think. And a little bit down here and a little bit up there. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to kind of blend that in. What I can do as well is take some of this and take it down here to get rid of those shadows and stipple. And then I'm going to take one of the warmer, lighter shades and use it as an eyeshadow base, like so. So this is still quite fair, but it's got a bit more warmth in it. And don't forget, you've also got a yellowy one, which is also quite handy to have. So I'm really going to be experimenting with this palette. What I love as well is it applies, because it melts quite easily, it applies really well with the fingers, which if you're taking this out and about in your handbag, you're going to be able to blend this really well without the need for a brush. Okay, now I'm going to go in very gently with the coolest one, which I've got here, the coolest one of this. Now, this is also the one downside of this is going to start getting a little bit messy, I can see, especially when you use your brushes. But you just need to clean it up every now and again. I think it's no big deal. And it's certainly worth it for having the convenience of a portable tin like this. So I'm going to take this shade here because it is slightly more neutral. This is definitely more your bronzer shade. But these are very pigmented, so go easy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually apply some of this with my fingers like that. And I'm going to go in with less is more to start with, and then build it up if I want to. And then I'm going to put some around my nose. I can blend it out. I don't need to go all the way around. And a little bit here, just to contour. Okay, now I'm going to take the brush again and let's blend and see what that looks like. Now, because it's a contour shade, I'm actually taking it under the cheek, and I am actually using some strokes to kind of move it down that where your shadow is. A little bit of stippling, but I'm also moving the shade a bit. And then with my fingers, I'm just going to let this melt under my fingers and pinch my nose. Right, now I'm going to go in with the bronzer, and I'm going to hopefully look a little less scary now because I'm going to use the bronzer. And I'm going to dot this onto the brush. And I literally just dipped it once to warm up my complexion. And I'm taking this a little bit higher than I am the last shade, because I want to use this as a bronzer as opposed to a contour. I'm going to go in with a bit more. This layers beautifully as well. And don't forget, with your contour shade or your bronzing shade, you can also do a little bit of, I'm using the contour shade to just do a little bit of this. I'm definitely going to need to set this with powder though. But before I do, let's move on to the two other cream products that we have in here. So with these blushers, you've got a pink shade and you've got a peach shade. I'm going to go in, because I've got this cool tone top, I'm going to go in with the pink. I do love my peaches though, but I'm going to go in with the pink shade. And it's great to have a pink and a peach shade because that's going to go with anything. So I'm going to go in with a bit of the pink, and then we're going to finish off by using the highlighter. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this with my fingers. Now, of course, you could mix the two together to have a pinky peach. They blend out beautifully. You can see it's very, very difficult to end up looking like you've got too much blush on. I'm just building it up. Okay, you can see I'm looking rather shiny. But I don't mind that because, as I say, the powder's going to deal with that. Now I'm going to take the highlighter shade. And again, I'm going to try it with my fingers because I'm going to be using this when I'm out and about. Now, I could do this after powder, but I just want to see what it looks like under powder as well. And again, this can be put on all the usual places. I'm going to put a little bit under my brow bone. And a little bit over my lips. And what I like about this is it's not the sort of highlighter that looks really glittery. It's just a really subtle glow. So it's going to work. It's just going to look like skin glow rather than... It's just a really, really subtle glow. I love it. Right, so now I've applied virtually everything. The only colour I didn't use is some of the foundation shades and this yellow. Now the yellow can also be good at getting rid of under eye circles, all that darkness that you can have on your lids. Let me just put, I'm going to just show you. If I put some here, it's just going to give me that lift on the eyes. Good for cleaning up the edges and giving you that eye lift. Right, I'm going to put some powder on because you can see I'm a bit shiny, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'll put the powder on. Now, what I did is because it was a touch pale for me, I used the Charlotte Tilbury medium, which I normally veer away from because it's yellow and because most of my foundations are too yellow. This was a little bit too neutral, so that's why I own shade 2, which is used a lot, and shade 1. If something's a little bit too yellow, I use shade 1 of the airbrush, and if it's a little bit too neutral, then I use shade 2. So I use that, and then I use the airbrush brightening flawless finish under my eyes. Now, good points, bad points, I would say, as first impression to this as a foundation, okay? As a foundation, I would say the good points are, you know, when you're short-sighted and you put on a cream foundation like this and you think it's really well blended, and then you look at yourself close up and you think you find a streak mark somewhere that hasn't blended out and you haven't spotted it. I didn't find that at all with this. It blends like a dream, really does. But what I would say in terms of the minus points is that it is quite a creamy consistency. And therefore it can, if you don't powder it straight away, it can settle into fine lines a little bit. And I found it was settling into this because I've got very hooded lids. I'm going to see how this wears over the hours. But I'm loving it. I'm loving the way that the colours have all blended well together. What I'd also like to do is to try this out, blending it in with a sponge, because the sponge is going to take a little bit more product and it's going to blot it, work it more into the skin. So I'd like to experiment with ways of applying it, and even just applying it all with my fingers. That's the foundation, okay? Now, in terms of the coverage and the appearance on the skin, I haven't even used setting spray yet, but I'm going to, because I'm a bit worried that it might get a bit... This isn't one... I'm not sure about this if you find that your makeup melts in hot weather. That's the only thing I would say. But for the convenience of having all those shades in one palette and being able to mix and match them, And the fact is, in the summertime, I can mix and go a bit deeper with my foundation shade. I'm loving it. The only thing I'm a bit worried about is because I was starting on that shade, that I'm worried that a few of these are going to end up being redundant, although this one looked beautiful under the eyes as a brightening shade. So I'm going to have to find ways of using these by mixing these shades and these shades sometimes to make my foundation. And as I said, if you're dipping a brush in it, you're going to get this happening, which is no biggie, but I'm just giving you all the pluses and minuses. Now, in terms of the amount of product in the palette, you have got 0.9 ounces, 26.5 grams of product. Now, I'm just looking at a normal foundation. I've got Charlotte's Flawless Filter here, and there is 1 ounce in a bottle. So you're getting the equivalent of a bottle of foundation. Now, the price is quite expensive, although I did get 20% off on Look Fantastic. I'm going to put the details and the code that I used. This is normally £70 something, and I got it for £50 something. But for the convenience of the fact that if you think about it, you've got your blush, your bronzer, and your highlighter. Now, just before I finish off with this, I just want to add a little bit more over the top. I love that highlighter because it doesn't look like highlighter. It looks like I've just got fresh skin. There's no ounce of a shimmer. It just looks like the way that you would normally move. It's so beautiful, really pretty. And again, under the eyes, under the eyebrows, it looks the same. And it's going to look, I'm just going to put a spot more here. It's going to look really great. I can see myself using that in my makeup bag. I'm loving it. I will finish off. I'm going to put my makeup on and I'm going to come back later and tell you how this wears. I would say, not one for somebody with oily skin or with somebody that works a lot in hot climate. But otherwise, I'm loving this. And I'm very tempted to look at the darker palette as well, so that I can kind of mix and match even more shades. That's my review for now. I'll be right back when I put my makeup on. Okay, that's me done. I don't normally go for a lipstick colour like this, but I just wanted to test whether or not I could mix a lipstick with this palette as well. And so I mixed some of the bronzer and some of the blush shade to make myself a peachy nude lipstick. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Love you all. Mwah. Okay, so you're now seeing a picture. Now, but my editing tool doesn't do still photographs any favours. They always make me look super shiny when I'm not. So I would suggest that you go over to Instagram and look at this picture, because I did post this picture on Instagram, which will give you a more accurate reflection of what this foundation looks like. One of the things that I was overwhelmed by was how stunning it does look on camera. So it really is good if you're going for a wedding or whatever. The update was it wore very well, and I did at the end of the day, I tested it by putting some kitchen towel against it because I was afraid that it would melt. I didn't get hardly any foundation came off on the kitchen towel. So even though it's quite creamy, it isn't going to melt in normal conditions. So all, in other words, it set really well, even though it was quite creamy and I thought it wasn't going to set and it was going to come off. It did set really well and it lasted really well. Now, one other update is I didn't realise that the yellow isn't actually yellow, it's green. I didn't realise until I was playing about with it today. And so that is going to really hide rosacea and everything. Now, I've been so impressed with this that I've gone and ordered the other shade. So do tune in, because I'm going to do a part 2 where I'm going to show you the other one, the deeper shade, and do a comparison, because the deep tan to deep shade actually isn't that deep. And I think if you're a medium skin tone like me, you're going to be on the cusp, and you might want to see swatches from both. So I will put that video out as soon as it arrives. It's due to come today, but I haven't got it yet.